long time ago, there were 3 little pigs. Now you've heard about these pigs before. There was a pig that really liked running out in the fields and rolling in the grass. There was another pig who loved hanging out in the woods, and that third pig really liked playing in the mud. And so when their mother told them it was time for them to go make their way into the world, the 3 pigs set off. And the first little pig, well, he met a farmer. And that farmer was cutting hay. And the pig went up to that farmer and said, hey farmer, if I work for you, can I get some straw to build a house? And the farmer said, sure. And a day later, he had worked hard enough to get enough straw to build himself a very own snug little straw house. The second pig, he went walking through the woods because he loved hanging out in the forest. And he met a woodcutter. And he said, hey woodcutter, if I work for you for a few days, can I get enough sticks to make a house for myself? And the woodcutter, happy for the help, said, sure. And a few days later, that second pig had worked long enough to get those sticks and build a nice, snug, and a little bit stronger stick house for himself. And then there was the third little pig, the little sister pig. She loved playing in the mud. And so as she was walking through town, she came to the edge of town where there was a brickmaker who was gathering clay and patting it into bricks. She asked the brickmaker, hey, if I work for you, could I get enough bricks to build a house? And the brickmaker said, well, it'll take a long time, but you're welcome to work with me. I'll show you all I know about making bricks. Now, a week later, after the 2 older brothers had already built their houses, and now they were running through the town and dancing and singing and playing their flutes, they found their sister still working hard to make bricks for her house. And they said, sister, what are you doing wasting your time? Just build a house out of straw or a house out of sticks. It'll be plenty. All you need. But that little sister, she said, no, I'm going to do it this way. Well, weeks went by. And finally, the third little pig had enough bricks to build a house, and she built a snug little house with brick walls and small little windows with bars across them and a nice strong oak door. Well, you probably know what's going to happen next, right? It wasn't long before a new neighbor came to that part of the forest. Now, this is a creature that had gray fur and long legs and a long snout and sharp teeth and really, really bad breath. He sniffed the air and said, huh, pork, huh, I love the other white meat for dinner. And he followed his nose right to a straw house. And he yelled out in his loudest wolf voice, little pig, let me come in. And the little pig was really scared and squeaked out in what he hoped was his bravest voice, and not by the fur of my chinny chin chin. Then I'll stomp and I'll smash and I'll knock your house in, said the wolf, and he knocked the house right over. And that pig jumped out the back window and disappeared into the forest. That pig ran all the way to his brother's house, that little stick house, and they closed the stick door and they huddled underneath the bed, hoping that would be enough of a defense from that terrible wolf. But that wolf had a really good sense of smell. He could smell that pig all the way into the woods and got to that stick house and said, little pig, let me come in. You know what the pig said, right? Not by the fur of our chinny chin chins. Then I'll stomp and I'll smash and I'll knock your house in. And that's what he did. He stomped and he smashed and bam, the house fell right over. Luckily, those pigs jumped out the back window and ran all the way to town where their sister's house was located. They told their sister what was happening, and they ran inside that brick house and they slammed the door and they locked it with 3 big metal locks. But that wolf, he followed his nose and 3 pigs, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I love ham for dinner. And he called out in his loudest, angriest wolf voice, little pigs, let me come in. And the 2 older brothers squeaked out, not by the fur of our chinny chin chins. But that big sister, well, little sister, but she was really big that day, said, you can try and try, but you won't get in. And that wolf, he stomped and he smashed as hard as he could with his jaws and his paws and his claws, but nothing happened to the brick house. So he said, I'm not trying very hard, I'll try again. And he stomped and he smashed and he stomped and he smashed and nothing happened. So he said, well, okay, pigs, you might have won this time, but I'm going to find a way inside. And he began circling that house looking for a way in, and he noticed the chimney. He went next door and he stole a ladder, put it up against the side of the house and started climbing up onto the roof of that house. But that little sister pig, she noticed what he was doing and she lit a fire as fast as she could, put a great big pot of water on that fire, and by the time the wolf was trying to crawl down that chimney, the water was boiling. And when Wolf saw that boiling water, he tried to turn around, but he slipped and he fell, splash! And that was the end of that wolf. And they say those three pigs, they had wolf soup for dinner. And that's the end of the story. So there's an example of a story we're pretty familiar with. You can see the three plateaus. You know, the house built out of straw, the house built out of sticks, the house built out of bricks, and then the wolf goes to each of those. And that's a really common pattern with stories. Another pattern you'll often see in stories is what's called the parallel story, where something happens once with one character, and then a really similar thing happens the second time, but there's one little difference. And that makes something called a parallel story. Parallel stories are also the stories that politicians use. If you think back to the election last year, regardless of party, politicians will say, if you do what my party says, these great things are going to happen. The economy will take off, we'll have lots of jobs, everybody will be wealthy, life will be good. If you do what my opponent says, everything bad will happen. You know, the economy will crash, you won't have a job, all these bad things will occur. And that's a skill, you know, regardless of party. Both parties use that because parallel stories are stories that are designed to teach about appropriate behavior and also to try to convince people that you're right about whatever you're talking about. And so here's an example of one of those parallel stories. It comes from Aesop. A long time back there was this woodcutter, and he was chopping wood in the forest when he saw a huge oak tree right at the edge of a lake. And he thought, oh, if I can cut that tree down, that'll keep me with plenty of wood for a whole week of work. And so he got out his axe and he started chopping away at that tree, but it was already late in the day, and his hands were sweaty and he was feeling tired, and who knows how it happened, but as he was chopping, the wooden handle of his axe slipped out of his hands and it went flying and splash right into the lake. And he ran to the edge of the lake and peered in to see if he could see his axe, but the water was so deep he couldn't see the bottom. And he had never learned how to swim, and he thought, oh no, what am I going to do? Because being a woodcutter, without an axe, he had no job. And as he was stomping around, yelling at himself for being so foolish as to lose his axe in a lake, he saw a head pop up out of the water. It was kind of a funny looking head. It had these funny little winged little things coming off the top of it, and it was a helmet actually. A smiling, boyish face looked out. It was Hermes. Hermes called out to the woodcutter, "Did you lose something in the lake?" And the woodcutter said, yes, I did. Could you please bring it back for me? It was an axe. Sure, said Hermes, the god of messages and tricks. He dove down into the water and he pulled out a beautiful golden axe. And he showed it to the woodcutter and said, "Is this your axe?" And the woodcutter looked at it and said, no, mine was pretty ordinary looking, kind of wooden handle, metal axe head, not gold. So Hermes dove back down. When he came back up, he had a beautiful silver axe carved with intricate designs and said, "Is this your axe?" And the woodcutter looked at it and thought, oh, what a beautiful axe that is, but no, that's not mine either. Ordinary axe, wooden handle, metal axe head, not silver. So Hermes dove down, he came back up, and there, in his arms, was the woodcutter's axe. And he said, "Oh, that's mine." And Hermes handed it to him and said, "Because of your honesty, I'll give you the other two axes too." And he dove down and brought them up. So the woodcutter not only had his own well-used, wooden-handled, metal axe-head axe, but he also had a beautiful axe of gold and one of silver. And he took them home and sold those axes and became a very wealthy landowner. Well, when his neighbor heard what had happened, he thought to himself, hey, I know where that lake is. He took his axe, found a tree right near the water and began chopping away, and after a few chops, he threw his axe into the water, splash! And then he began stomping around saying, oh no, I lost my axe, what am I ever going to do? When Hermes popped his head out of the water and said, "You lost your axe?" Yes, it fell in the water. I don't know what to do. I can't have a job if I don't have my axe." And Hermes smiled and dove down and brought up that golden axe and said, "Hey, is this yours?" And that neighbor said, "Yes, it is. Yes, it is." But as he reached out to grab that axe, Hermes pulled it away and said, "Ha! I saw what happened. I know this isn't really your axe, and for lying, you lose the golden axe and your own axe." And he disappeared beneath the waves. And that was the last time anyone saw Hermes in that lake. And the neighbor realized what happens when you lie. And that's the end of the story.